Another trend in many states is that metropolitan areas are growing at a much faster rate compared to suburbs and rural areas. This is leading to two challenges: migration of skilled workforce from rural to metropolitan areas, and sustainable development of high-density areas that balances economic growth with cleaner living standards. As you all know, our production landscape has been undergoing considerable change. To put things in perspective, the 20th century saw a rapid decline in employment in an agriculture sector that had dominated society for over 10,000 years. At the turn of the 20th century, 41% of the workforce in the US was employed in agriculture. This had decreased to about 21% at the end of the Second World War and to 1.9% in year 2000. That is a significant change in a century, from 41% to 2%. On the other hand, agricultural output has grown rapidly, and agricultural production has become increasingly efficient, allowing consumers to spend an ever-shrinking proportion of their income on food. A similar trend has now emerged in manufacturing. While the debate around the impact of international trade on manufacturing jobs continues, technological improvements have more to do with change in job levels than international trade. In the 1950s and 60s, manufacturing was the center of the US economy and the economies of all other developed countries. Yet by 2000, as the contributor to GDP, it was easily outranked by the financial sector. Just over the past decade, manufacturing employment in the US has decreased by about 1/3, while manufacturing output has remained constant. Technology and automation have increased productivity, created more manufacturing jobs for knowledge-based and highly skilled workers, and eliminated low-skilled jobs.
Let's talk about the nature of this pending industrial revolution. First of all, we're not talking about incremental change here. I think when I'm done with my talk, I hope that you will see that what I'm talking about is a quantum shift, a major refocusing of how we do manufacturing in this country and the way we produce our goods. The basis of competition won't be price. We're going to level the playing field. Countries with low wages are not going to be substantially ahead of countries who have a higher standard of living, the highest standard of living, countries like Western Europe and the United States. The basis of competition will be creativity and innovation. I think those of you who heard the keynote speaker yesterday gave some pretty good examples of why this is true. And finally, you're going to have rapid forces to market. Whoever gets to market first is going to own the market. Why does Prius own the hybrid market to a large extent? They were the first one who showed up. Who's going to show up first with the electric car? We're not going to have 10 to 12 years to introduce the next generation of equipment, the next generation of manufactured product. You're not going to be able to sit out there and manufacture a product today with a 10-year return on investment and have 10 years to sell your product in the market, because guess what? 2 years from now, the technology is going to overtake the product you're selling in almost every market we're manufacturing in. It will reintroduce a truly global manufacturing down to the worker level. And I know today we think and we know we live in a global society, and we talk about it all the time. We have global competitions, we have global corporations, but the kind of global I'm talking about is where workers are together in a team, side by side, globally. Your manufacturing operator is working in a team with a manufacturing operator from Japan, from India, in a concurrent, real-time basis. It's a whole different context of what we mean by global manufacturing.
Well, first of all, I think any IE who reads The World is Flat, any of us can find ourselves in that book. The Flatners and Friedman's book, we're talking about many IE concepts: supply chaining, process improvement, many other things that we relate to and that we know that we're a part of, right? But when I read that book, and it's been a while now, what really struck me was the fact that even though we're all over that book, the word industrial engineering, or the phrase, is not in it at all, or was not at that time. OR was. I mean, you'd find something about an OR group in Baltimore and things like that and so on. Now, I never blame Friedman for that. I'm just thinking, what is it that we have to do in some sense to get ourselves to the point where it would be a very natural thing that people would make that kind of correlation? So in a very simple way, what I'm really saying is we have an ongoing challenge and an ongoing opportunity which has to do with advocacy, and it's expanding our role as advocates of industrial engineering. And the worst thing that we can tell somebody, because we may have moved into some position that has some other title or something, is, I used to be an industrial engineer, or I'm not an industrial engineer, or I'd rather have some other title or something like that. It doesn't matter what our titles are. Whether you're a dean of engineering, that I'll tell people frankly, I'm an industrial engineer, whether you're the CEO of a corporation or whatever. Because we know that regardless of where we are and what we do, it really has been this education that we had at a certain level and the tools and skills that we developed that have played a critical role in moving us to where we are today. So I think that's a very, very important message, and again, it starts off as something that's out there for all of us to consider in what we do every day and wherever we may be. I mean, I'm talking about that elementary school, for example, where our son or daughter is, or grandson or granddaughter, every place in the community, just creating that level of awareness.